Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics. In this video, we're going to talk about handgun options for night vision. So if you've used night vision, law enforcement, military, or if you own night vision, you know that there are some hurdles that you have to overcome when it comes to shooting accurately with night vision. Just because the way the night vision works, your night vision goggles, if you're going to wear them, you have an accommodation issue. You can either focus out there or you can focus up close. You can't really do both without adapters or going binoculars, having one set close, one set far away, which is a totally different topic. With rifles, life's a little easier. You got D-balls, you got PECs, you got those IR lasers. Or you can literally get a mount and slave that night vision device directly to your optic if you want to for hunting or whatever you're going to do. When it comes to the handgun, though, life is a little bit more difficult. I remember being in the military, we had, some people had handguns and everybody pretty much had night vision, but there were no readily available options for shooting the handgun under night vision. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, when would I ever shoot a handgun under night vision? I don't know. This is America, so you have that option. It's your choice. But I think it's one of those more peculiar topics I wanted to address it. And this is something I talk about in my night vision classes, so I wanted to do a video on it. Granted, this video is not going to appeal to a lot of people, especially those of you that don't have night vision, but you do get to learn some pretty cool information, so at least bear with me for that much. So we're going to talk about what I consider to be the two best ways to shoot a handgun under night vision. First up, we have IR lasers, just like with the rifle. The most common aiming system for a rifle platform is an IR laser, a D-ball, PEC, whatever. For handguns, you got a few options. The two best options out there are the Surefire, the 400V, and you also have the D-ball PL, which is another great option. The cool thing about the PL is it has a visible and an IR laser, and those lasers are co-witness. So once you zero one, it zeroes the other one. So you can zero it in daytime with the green, and then you're good to go for night vision. Now, what are some drawbacks to lasers on handguns? Especially under night vision, one of the big drawbacks you're going to have, and this exists without night vision, exists with lasers, I should say, specifically, is parallax. The laser is going to intersect with a point distance. And basically what that means is if I zero the laser for 25 meters, inside or outside of 25 meters, my point of aim, point of impact is going to have a difference. They're not going to be quite the same. It's only going to be point of aim, point of impact at the distance it's zeroed at. Now for handgun practicality, how much difference does that make? Well, not much at all, depending on how far you want to shoot. The D-ball, the PL, is a great system. It has one of the best IR floods out there for something of this size. One of the disadvantages to it, though, I will say, is, and again, just talking about this system, is when you're in IR mode, you have flood and laser. You don't get the choice of just laser, because I don't always need the illuminator. In fact, with the night vision that I use, I very rarely need an illuminator to see what I'm shooting at. But when it comes to lasers, the biggest thing I've found to be a problem is tracking shots and tracking movers. As you'll see here, dot bounce is very exaggerated, so your hits tend to be a little, for me, they tend to be a little bit lower than I'd want them on reset. So I fire that first round, it's crisp, clean, depending on the target presentation, it's right where I want it to be. Now shooting steel is a lot different than shooting at real people. So when I use this system under simunitions, I track the same problems going against a moving threat, is the beam tends to be a little bit lower than I want it to be when I'm resetting, and I have to constantly correct for that. And then tracking movers does make life a little bit more difficult. I don't feel it's as natural as an intuitive system to use to shoot with, especially as a handgun. Now with a rifle, it's a shoulder supported weapon. Under IR, I don't have to mount the gun. I don't have to get a cheek weld because I have my IR laser, and I can really just hold the rifle wherever I want as long as the dot's where I want it to be. And again, there's parallax issues as well, but I'm able to get hits. The laser on the handgun is great, but there is a better system, I feel, available, and it doesn't require necessarily the same amount of investment, especially if you already have it. The RMR, the reflex sight. This addition to a handgun makes its money under night vision. This is by far the best way to shoot under nines. Some people that own these and own night vision haven't made the connection yet. I use the adjustable RM07. I like the 6.5 MOA dot, and the reason for that is, during non-night vision conditions, be they low light or sunlight, the dot is roughly the same size as my front sight post. If I want to do trick shots out to 200 meters, I have another gun that has a 3.25 on it. But for general practical self-defense, EDC, and duty carry, I want that 6.5 dot. But here's the cool thing with the adjustable. You can set it in auto mode, which is where I keep it until it's time to shoot under night vision. And then I put it in manual mode and go down to the lowest possible setting. And as you'll see, I'm able to press out and the dot magically appears before my very eyes. The coolest thing about this, and something that does take there is a bit of a learning curve, is you can't see the gun. The gun is just blurry, but that dot is crisp, clean, and in focus, and you take that magical floating dot and you put it where you want to hit, just like you would during the day. I found that shooting under night vision with an RMR has increased my accuracy and my speed when using the dot during daytime, because I become very target focused and I just bring the dot into my vision and get my hits. The RMR system makes a world of difference when it comes to tracking moving threats and it comes to tracking, to confronting real threats. Because shooting paper and shooting steel is one thing, but when actually confronting real life role players, like when I use night vision under simunitions, I've had way greater luck using the RMR system for aiming and accurate hits than I would using the laser assisted aiming, such as on the D-ball PL of that Surefire 400 feet. Now, there are some drawbacks to using the RMR. One specifically that really stands out to me is the fact that you are looking through glass and seeing that dot. And what I found is there are some targets, depending on what their color is, where they are on the gradient scale of light to dark, or if the target is dark and the background is light, or the target's light and the background is darker, or whatever the combination of contrast is. Sometimes I have to run a IR light, like a Surefire. I use the 300V, just the weapon light that gives you white or IR, and I have to wash it with that IR in order to pick up the dot and actually make PID on my threat. So that is one potential drawback that you don't necessarily see, like with the D-ball PL. The thing about the PL is that IR flood is always on. You can't turn it off. Now, the 400V, you have that option. There's some other IR handgun lights out there that you also have that option. I'm just not a fan of lasers on pistols in general. They do serve a purpose, but that purpose, that category and that purpose is actually really, really small. No one I know can quantifiably say that they can shoot accurately and faster with a laser than they can with iron sights. And the same transfers to night vision when we start talking about using a handgun and using the RMR. This topic doesn't apply to you, obviously, if you don't have night vision, or if you have night vision, you're not interested in using your night vision with a handgun. But for those of you, especially those of you occupationally that use night vision, SWAT or SRT or whatever your acronym is, this is something to definitely bring up to your administrators and address, because you do carry a sidearm. And for safety's sake, worst case scenario, that rifle system, that rifle IR goes down. If you're running an RMR on a sidearm, or you're running an IR laser on your sidearm, you can make that smooth, clean transition to a weapon system, and you don't have to rely on changing batteries real quick or completely getting out of the stack, or whatever the situation may be. Now you have an option to continue to be in the fight if there's a fight to be had. For everybody else, there are some people that do varmint control handguns, little 22s. That's something I'm a fan of. And running under night vision, since I have that option, that RMR, or just that reflex side I'm able to mount, just makes my life so much easier than trying to use a laser aided aiming system. So as you can tell, I'm pretty biased. I prefer the reflex sight versus the laser. The lasers have their place. But for me, running that RMR, as you can see just what I've shown you with the footage I've been able to show you, definitely makes life easier. It makes shooting faster, and it makes your hits more accurate. It makes it much easier to track movers. For anybody that's curious, the night vision you're seeing, this first person view that you're seeing, is white phosphor, so it's not green. If you're not familiar, that you can literally make a night vision tube in any color you want, provided you have the money. White and amber are two of the best colors. Green is a color the military went with for God knows what reason. But as my personal experience of white phosphor, just to throw this in there, is it's a better system. It provides a greater degree of contrast, and that's why I use it. Nothing wrong with green. Green's good. Green's also a little bit less expensive than the white phosphor, at least for now. But if you are thinking about getting into night vision, white phosphor is definitely the way to go. Now, as far as handguns, if you're already running an RMR, then you're good to go. And these days you don't have to invest as much as you used to get an RMR on your gun. There's some aftermarket options. I know Raven Concealment's coming out with one here shortly that allow you and Duke Defend makes one where you can just mount to the dovetail and get your RMR there, or your Aimpoint Micro, or whatever aiming system you're going to use. So if you're curious, if you're getting into night vision, you're thinking about getting into night vision, you have night vision, you're wondering how do you best employ your handgun, I just wanted to put this video out there to kind of show you the two best options that are available. Another thing that you probably noticed in the video is a lack of night sights. Night sights and night vision do not get along. You can technically shoot with night sights under nods. You just line up those three really blurry dots, but my experience has been it's super slow and it's super unreliable, and the shooting is often, guys that shoot a tight group like this during the day using night sights under nods at night, their group tends to be considerably larger just because you're not getting an actual sight picture. So if you have a handgun you're thinking about using for night vision use, take the night sights off of it. Go with either a laser, or my personal advice, go with an RMR or a comparable reflex. I'm Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.